Paul Graham from OptimalBody.ca. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps to using calorie counting for weight loss. Step number 1, I'm going to walk you through the easiest way to count calories. Step number 2, I'm going to talk to you a bit about, well, what's your goal you're trying to accomplish with calorie counting. Step 3, common mistakes, why calorie counting doesn't work for most people. Step number 4, how to make adjustments to your calorie counting. So for step number 1, the easiest way to go about calorie counting this day and age is to get an app on your phone. MyFitnessPal is one of the most popular ones. There's a bunch others ones that work with Fitbits and a host of others. Pick one of those out that you like using on your app, or if you don't have a smartphone, use your desktop. And that's the easiest way to go about calorie counting. When you're counting calories for weight loss, your goal is to get into an energy deficit. So you need to burn out more energy than you're consuming. You're obviously counting in the hopes of doing this. The first thing to understand is that calorie counting is not exact math. This is one of the most common errors people make, is they think it's this precise thing. The human body isn't a robot or a computer where it can work with these precise numbers. So understand, counting calories is trying to help you get control of your portion sizes and how much you're consuming, with the goal of getting into a calorie deficit or an energy deficit. So how do you know how many calories to eat to lose weight? It's been my experience that a lot of the different apps out there give you weird targets for calories or weird targets for macronutrients, or how much protein, fats, and carbs to consume. What I would suggest doing is using a calorie calculator that I'll put down in the description below, and use that to figure out a starting point for how many calories you need to lose based on your weight, your height, your age, and some other factors that you'll pop into that calculator. It should only take you about 10 seconds to use. Next, how do you know how much protein, fat, or carbs to eat? This can vary greatly. There's no set amount that is right for everyone, but what I'm going to do is share with you what I found works well in my experience. If you like eating more fatty foods, what I'd recommend is getting about 40% of your calories from fats, about 30% from protein, and about 30% from carbs. On the other hand, if you tend to like carbohydrates more, I would flip that. Get 40% of your calories from carbohydrates, 30% of your calories from protein, and finally 30% of your calories from fats. Essentially, it is a more moderate approach than what a lot of diets take, where it's kind of in the middle ground, where you're going to be making sure that you're getting lots of the different things your body needs. Step number 2 with calorie counting. What's your actual goal with this? So it's important to understand this. If you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to make sure you keep that weight off long term, calorie counting is a way for you to be able to learn more about the food you're consuming and learn how to portion control. The big mistake I see most people make with this is expecting that calorie counting is going to be the way to hold themselves accountable. It can be a good short-term tool in my experience, but long-term doesn't work well for most people, because they're not actually learning which foods are more dense in calories, how dense are they, which foods are less dense, which foods are more dense in protein, what foods are more dense in fat or carbs. Use it as an educational tool. If you're just trying to hit a specific number of grams of protein, fat, carbs, or calories, you're probably not going to learn how to eat. Step number 3, the most common mistakes people make with calorie counting. Often this leads to people thinking that they have a problem with their metabolism or hormones or something else that prevents them from losing weight. Super common. I see clients all the time who tell me they've been counting calories, they're consuming 800 calories a day, 1,000, 1,200 calories a day, whatever it is, they're not losing any weight. There must be something wrong with their body. So almost everyone makes these mistakes, so helping you to be aware of them, hopefully you won't make them. So first, human beings suck at estimating food quantities. Most people that count calories aren't measuring out every single thing they eat. Measuring out every single thing you eat gets stressful over time. However, it can be a good experience for a person to learn, because most people are estimating how much they eat, and there's been tons of research done out there where people inaccurately estimate how much food they're consuming. I've seen numbers anywhere from 20 to 50%. The next most common mistake is most people think that calorie counting is an exact math. The way science figures out how many calories are in a piece of food, so when you read the label on the side of a container, or if you Google how many calories are in an apple or carrots or an orange, isn't exact science. There's of course variance from one piece of food to another. So they've done research on this as well. I've seen numbers again that show anywhere up to 20 to 30% plus or minus error rate when the label shows you how many calories are in a piece of food. Let's say you're measuring everything out, you think you're consuming 1,000 calories. That could mean anywhere between 700 and 1,300 calories. So this is a huge range. Next mistake goes back to something I said earlier. I said it was easiest to use apps this day and age to count calories. Understand that most of these apps allow people to put in custom foods, and I've seen incredible errors where people have completely inaccurate numbers for food. People, when using MyFitnessPal, often think it's standardized with each type of food and don't realize that different people are putting these foods into the app. So often, the foods that you're entering into the app might be completely inaccurate. Next mistake, another room for error. Often, people don't realize there's differences in how much nutrition or calories are coming from the food based on, for example, if it's cooked or uncooked. If you're entering in 3 ounces of uncooked beef, that's very different than 3 ounces of cooked beef. Or if you're having mashed potatoes versus having potatoes that have been boiled and barely cooked, that's going to impact what actually happens inside of your body in terms of calories. Another mistake. Earlier I said people suck at estimating how much food they're consuming. People also really suck at estimating how much energy they're expending through exercise and activity. Again, lots of research has been done, and people overestimate how much energy they're using in a workout. Oftentimes, I've seen numbers anywhere from, again, 10 to 50%. Huge room for error there, where oftentimes people are thinking they're in a large calorie deficit, but they're not expending as much energy as they believe. The next thing of why it doesn't work, it takes up a lot of energy for the vast majority of us to count calories and track everything we're eating, measuring everything we're eating. It can get exhausting. I've done it in the past. I went through about a 6-month period where I was measuring out just 3 to 6 days a week how much food I was eating, getting all the different protein, fats, carbs, everything that we're talking about in this video. And after 6 months of this, I was completely burnt out. I was exhausted. I'm a fitness professional who does this for a living, and I found it exhausting. So it's actually a lot harder than most people think to continuously track your food. This leads to most people not staying consistent with it. Finally, one of the biggest errors that I see is people are only tracking their good days and they don't track their bad days. And so people say, oh, I'm doing awesome Monday through Friday. Saturday, I'm going to indulge a little bit because I'm doing good. I'll just have a little bit, but it's okay. I won't bother tracking because it's not that good anyways. People oftentimes are pushing themselves out of this energy deficit because they're over-consuming when they're not tracking. If you are going to all the effort of tracking every single thing you eat, track every single thing you eat on every day. And you have to do it for a more prolonged period of time. Often people do it for 1 week or 2 weeks, and they're like, nothing's working. If you are going to use calorie counting, you have to do it for longer periods of time. Finally, step number 4 with calorie counting for weight loss is make adjustments. Again, most people, like I was saying, think they're in a certain range, nothing's working, they give up. Instead, play around and start making adjustments. Make sure you're actually tracking how much protein, fats, carbs you're getting, how many calories you're taking in, and get a baseline and get consistent with that. Once you're consistent, if you're still not losing weight or not losing weight at the pace you want, make an adjustment. If you're not losing weight, a rule of thumb that might help is to decrease how much you're eating by 250 calories. It's just a rough rule of thumb. Individually, it's going to be different for every person. Consistently do that for a few weeks and see what happens.